I want to watch this Linus video. Someone has a better house than me. That's a transgression. So let's check it out.
I have spent years perfecting my...
So, okay, I put a lot of work into my house. I talked about most recently, I'm like, maybe I should make that room into like a LAN room. Friends can come over and PC LAN games, kind of like we did at Shroud's house that one time during his Fragathon. I was like, dude, we should just build that. We can do streams with like big group games, stuff like that. Apparently this guy in Austin has this like crazy LAN gaming house. I don't know who it is. Apparently Linus came down to Austin and saw it. I want to check out this video. Maybe there's something I could learn from this.
I have spent years perfecting my gaming house. So imagine then my disappointment when I found out that Kenton Varda not only beat me to it, but built it better than I could have dreamed. And here I am in Austin, Texas, where everything is bigger, to take you guys on an exclusive tour of LANparty.house, the ultimate gamer house for you and 22 of your closest friends.
Wait,
everything about it is mind-blowing, from the hideaway gaming rigs to the dedicated cat bathrooms to the floor panels that lift up to reveal an arcade's worth of DDR dance platforms. And Kenton and his wife Jade spent their entire Saturday taking us around so we could dive deep and give you guys some inspiration for your next gaming space, along with some helpful what not to do's. In fairness to me, Kenton did have a bit of a leg up when it came to designing the ultimate gamer house. I mean, for starters, his dad is low-key kind of a big deal in architectural design. And for another thing, this is actually V2, borrowing many ideas from his original LAN party house, but iterating on them, both in terms of refinement and in terms of scale. For starters, he used to have monitors at each station mounted to rails that would...
He's so rich. Well, this guy's like, this is like just a dude. This guy's not even a streamer.
Lift up to display artwork whenever they weren't in use. Only he realized that he never once used them for that. So he devised a new system where they hide away completely. The grown-up playroom consists of a total of 12 completely invisible and inaudible gaming setups. All you have to do to deploy one is open the bottom cabinet.
Actually, I'll be honest with you. I'm gonna take a step further. My thought process is like, this guy isn't a streamer. Like how does he have this many like friends who game like this? But then I think about it. I'm like, dude, my streamer friends don't play games. Like most of my friends are not gamers in streaming. Like I don't play games with a lot of my friends.
And fold down the tabletop. And that's it. For extra gamer cred, these 32-inch Corsair Xeneon 4K 144Hz monitors are mounted with low-profile articulating mounts so you can pull them forward and, oh yeah, get in the zone. Or, well, as long as you have peripherals, which he thought of. Every station includes a keyboard and a mouse and, okay, this is a bit of an odd choice, a sound bar. I asked about this, and Kenton explained that they mostly play co-op games like Deep Rock Galactic, and they find that the advantage of being able to yell across the room at each other outweighs the disadvantage of sound bleed. And of course, anyone who wants can plug a headset into the provided USB hub.
I also prefer to yell at people like across the room.
Or integrated 3.5mm jack. Speaking of plugging in, this is a nice touch. The original house had the power outlets directly behind the monitor, which is symmetrical, but makes plugging things in a bit of a pain in the butt if you bring your phone or some random other peripherals. I think the only thing that I would change here then is to maybe add a desk pad. LTTstore.com. Above each station is a cupboard for snackies, which, Kenton, you might want to restock, because I understand you've got company coming in a couple of hours. They actually arranged to have a LAN tonight so that we could see everything deployed and maybe even get a couple games in before we have to drive up to Houston. Of course, desktop PC gaming is just one kind of gaming. What about the 98-inch Samsung elephant in the room? Well, for the more PlayStation inclined, there's
this guy's house is sick.
Hooked up to a Marantz AV receiver and a 5.1 electrostatic speaker setup. And I gotta say, I absolutely love the thoughtful design of the built-in console up here. Unlike my setup, the front outlets are actually reachable, making charging your lapboard or your controllers a piece of cake. Speaking of controllers, storage for them is built into the 4 laser.
Did it say where the monitors were? I think the monitors were 32-inch.
Is an 4K 144 hertz monitors.
4K monitors.
Low profile
I don't really like gaming 4K because I don't like how small everything is. Like for me, like the sweet spot is 1440 right now. Yeah, 2K 1440 something.
By the way, love to see that old school Xbox 360 wireless dongle. Look, if it works, it works.
Dude, I remember using that Xbox 360 dongle.
We have a couple of notes, even angled toward the seating position. Ceiling mounted is not really ideal for rear speakers, and some acoustic materials on this cabinetry would go a long way towards improving the surround sound experience in this room. With that said, it sounds like most of the content that Kenton listens to in here is stereo mixed music anyway, and that is where these come in. Oh, it's heavy. Ugh. Embedded into the concrete slab of this
that's
house
sick.
are 4
That is
DDR
crazy.
dance platforms from Eltec. Kenton, like me, is a big games for exercise guy and says he tries to use these about every other day to keep up his cardio fitness. Now, at this time, he hasn't actually gotten all 4 working at once yet, but it was a lot easier to put in the conduit for all 4 now and then hope the software would get easier to use later rather than adding more conduit.
You know what's
after
funny?
the fact.
That's actually true.
Besides, how boring would life be without a few dozen items remaining on your never-ending house project? Oh, speaking of conduit, remember how I said that the gaming systems were inaudible? That's because I am officially not alone. Beside the the grown-up playroom is what Kenton's HVAC contractor called by far the biggest server rack I've ever seen in a residential building. And while yes, it does in fact have a small AMD EPIC actual server in the server rack for AI tinkering and a persistent Minecraft instance for the kids, the vast majority of these rigs are identical gaming systems that power every station in the house. Now, since rack mount gaming hasn't taken off yet, Solidarity, Kenton ended up hosting a good old-fashioned PC build party with some of his old LAN buddies, and they put all 20 of these together over a couple of days. They're fairly modestly spec'd, considering the overall LAN house budget was somewhere in the 7-figure range, but I think Kenton mostly achieved his stated goal of hitting the price-to-performance sweet spot while keeping the systems easily manageable. On that note, none of these use local storage. Instead, all of them boot from a single network image on that server.
Oh my gosh, that's so sick!
Installed on all of them simultaneously.
That
allows
so
them all to
sick!
be kept up to date easily, and allows them to be quickly factory reset in the event that a guest bungs something up. By the way, he's got a GitHub repo with all of the quirky workarounds that he had to use to make this setup work. That
dude, that's so
would have come in
sick.
handy for us recently.
Why?
His only major regret.
That's okay. That's what I want. I need to come up with like an image, like a factory reset quote image of my PC as is, and just send frickin' reformats, dude.
Other boards, whose onboard 10 gig network cards struggle sometimes when booting over iSCSI, leading to the occasional crash. Guests are going to be here in less than half an hour.
Enterprise
by the way,
networking?
So,
Yeah,
guess
just
we
do
get
it
to
like
go through the
do
boot
it like a
sequence?
school.
You want to show us how to fire it all up?
Sure.
What? It's that easy? You just press the button? Okay, that's pretty cool. Wake on LAN, kind of magic. I assume it's Wake on LAN?
Yep.
Now, there are some disadvantages to not having hardline power buttons to all the stations, and he had an idea for like a network-attached USB hub of some sort with like relays or something so that he could power cycle them in the event of a crash, but hasn't gotten to it yet. Overall, I love this design. I mean, sure, he can't dump his waste heat into his pool, but by going with taller 4U cases, he also doesn't need to resort to water cooling to deal with all of this heat. He just lets the cool air fall down in front of the racks and then blasts all the hot air out into his hot aisle in the back, where it can be picked up by the air handler and rinse and repeat.
That is
Apparently, by the way,
crazy.
at full boom, this rack can suck back about 15,000 watts. Thankfully, most games don't push it that hard, and Kenton has a large solar array that in February generates around 75 kilowatt hours a day, so I guess that takes some of the sting out of it, but for those wondering, yes, a lot of power, and also a lot of networking. Let's talk about that. A full ubiquity
This is what's so
setup
interesting to me is the
might seem
networking.
a little overkill for home, but hey, if you got the budget for it, boy, is it ever nice. The AI object detection in their PoE cameras helps Kenton sleep soundly, alerting him if anyone approaches the house unexpectedly, and all of these systems are wired up for 10 gig networking with PoE all over the house for cameras and Wi-Fi.
Nice.
Kenton acknowledges that most setups at this
This is
scale
so
would
cool.
probably use a patch panel and would probably benefit from better cable management. But as a software developer,
I mean, dude, I will like you can't do better than this. Like cable, like am I crazy here? I feel like people talk about cable management. I'm like, how are you gonna do that much better? Guys, there's so much shit here. There's so much crap here. How can you expect anyone? You can't condense this that much more.
he says he just plumb wasn't familiar with them, and the RJ45 terminations directly into the network equipment hasn't really bothered him. I am gonna pipe up with one other note, by the way. A 208 volt network monitored PDU probably would have been a good choice rather than a pillar with power plugs in it. But if I'm being realistic, for periodic gaming parties, this is probably fine. Like me, Kenton is using fiber optic DisplayPort cables to go from his systems to his monitors all over the house, and he's been really happy with his Monoprice Slim cables. The longer runs to the upstairs are apparently working great and are like 100 feet. But unlike me, Kenton is using fiber optic USB cables to powered hubs for his peripherals, and he says sometimes these can be a little flaky, but they are much more affordable than Thunderbolt or Icon docks. Coming back out of the server room, we didn't really show the Tinker space yet, and there's a bunch of cool stuff in here. Old Nintendo Power magazines, a broken Dell 8K monitor, and I love this touch. All of Kenton's systems, other than his personal Debian Linux development workstation, are named for Mega Man bosses and have static network assignments that correspond to the boss's numbers. So if you need to remember an IP address, it's as simple as consulting the Mega Man wiki. Flawless.
That's actually so funny.
The basement is not for people. Well, not for regular-sized people anyway. Nope. The LAN house has not one, but 2 dedicated kiddie bathrooms with pet doors and 24/7 negative air pressure outdoor venting in order to keep litter and litter smells out of the rest of the house. This also happens to be where Kenton keeps his trophy that he won for arguing on the internet. Good job. Moving up to the main floor, what about second giant TV? This one's not quite as big, but given that it mostly gets used for Animal Crossing and duck game with large groups.
The frame TVs are so cool.
I guess that's probably okay, at least for now. Since he had the opportunity to design and build the place from scratch, Kenton put conduit everywhere. That means that in the long term, nothing would prevent him from running cables down through the back of this and running this off of a PC in the server room. By the way, since we're in here, I love this. If you look closely from now on, you're gonna notice that everywhere that a normal house, or even a gaming house, would have had 1 network port, Kenton put 4. That's because the price difference that the contractor quoted was only about 20%. So Kenton was like, okay, I guess I'll just put an access point anywhere I want. He apparently has like 8 or 10. He lost count. Surprisingly, the main bedroom is apparently pretty plain Jane.
The ubiquity stuff is that good.
Conduit back to the server room, just in case. But the kids' bedrooms are amazing. First, there's this kitty shelf in the family room that actually goes between them for late night visits from the cat, while still allowing them to close the doors for privacy. Then
it's prosumer trying to be enterprise.
Incredible loft bed setup, and of course there's conduit back to the server room for when the kids are old enough to need powerful workstations. Should I be the one to tell them that they all just use Chromebooks now? I'm not gonna tell them. This drying rack is awesome. It's not gaming, but I thought it was cool. So let's head upstairs.
I thought Chromebooks were for moms.
Office. It's a little ironic that Kenton only moved here to be closer to Cloudflare's Austin office and now primarily works from home ever since COVID. But hey, at least he got this house out of it, and it's amazing, with this room being one of the best. The his and hers workstations here both use Samsung Odyssey Neo G9 monitors, which essentially are 2 4K monitors built into one and wrapped around you, and both have Kinesis keyboards for better ergonomics. Like any Dvorak user, Kenton pointed out that he uses Dvorak, but no, he does not actually recommend it because he has had to personally code utilities for multiple platforms now that automatically switch to a QWERTY layout when he holds the control key so that he can reach copy paste for crying out loud. What he does recommend, though, is the ability to seamlessly move his mouse between his work tower and his personal machine using an application called Barrier. And because this monitor is super cool,
who the hell
it
uses
allows you to
Dvorak?
assign more or less of it to each machine depending on the focus of the day. That is actually a pretty strong argument for this thing versus 2 equally sized 4K screens. Great flexibility. There's also another TV in here, although it mostly gets used for music via Google Chromecast. And there's a boardroom table that, wait, no way, also converts into LAN Gaming Paradise. You have got to be kidding me! In total, that puts this room at another 8 gaming setups, all of which are wired down to the server room.
How rich is this guy?
Goes right down the middle of the table, like a regular conference table. That means no heat and no fan noise that's kicking out into the room from any of these, even with a full house. This space also gets used for tabletop gaming, though, so keeping it
Is that high up dude at
priority.
Cloudflare?
And keep it thin they did. Fun fact, by the way, Kenton designed this table himself in SketchUp and then had the cabinet maker bring it to life for him. Man, I gotta do more stuff like that. Then maybe I too would have a secret drink fridge in my home office. So cool. Literally.
You got 2?
As for the rest of the upstairs, it continues to be
Guys, I have no
AF
money. I
with a
spent all
couple
my
of
money on my
call rooms
stream.
with,
It was a huge waste.
Essential features like quad Ethernet ports and conduit down to the server room. The one has a treadmill so that you can be that guy on the conference call whose head is bobbing around. And there's also a couple of guest bedrooms because occasionally
all that
folks
money's
will fly
still
in from out of town for get-togethers and gaming parties, and it's nice to be able to accommodate them on site. Both of them naturally also have 3-inch conduit back to the server room and networking up the wazoo, but the thing is, when you're running optical display port or whatever, it's kind of necessary to have a big conduit if you want to get the connector through. Now, I noticed that Kenton, like me, irrationally put Cat 6A absolutely everywhere, which is always a funny conversation with contractors who go, I mean, yeah, I'll take your money, but like, I hate working with this stuff. Are you sure you don't want to use Cat 5e? Please?
IP address is...
The last major tech feature is an intercom system to the outdoor spaces, but they work about as well as my light switches at home for the time being. They're SIP phones, and Kenton hasn't learned about SIP infrastructure yet, so all they do for now is broadcast their IP address endlessly until you press the button again, which apparently the kids love to do just to troll him. So in the middle of the night, he'll be like, is someone in our house? Shut up.
Yeah, okay, I was gonna ask, what is it? Isn't a Cat 5 and a Cat 6 cable the exact same cable?
All that remains then is to ask, how'd I do? I'm thinking of starting one of those like realtor YouTube channels where I tour the houses that I'm listing for sale. So this is kind of a trial run for me. Were you guys thinking of selling by any chance? No. I didn't tell them I was gonna do that.
Yeah, that house is sick.
I have spent...
This guy lives in Austin? The fact he has 20 friends is a lot more impressive.